New card.
For every popular IP that exists, from Minecraft to Five Nights at Freddy's, they will always have some of the most devoted and loyal fans.
As a child, I yearned for the mines.
I'm not just talking about people who will buy the merch or go see the latest movie though. I mean fans who will turn their passions into a creative outlet, whether that be through cosplay or, fanfiction. Why is this so wet? Basically, if fans care enough about a certain character, you can guarantee there'll be some form of fan art for it. Like, no matter how obscure the TV show or game may be, there's always going to be someone out there either writing a 10,000 word fanfic or drawing enough fan art to fill the fucking Louvre. Now, with that being said, Spider-Man isn't exactly an unknown character. In fact, he's arguably one of the most well-known superheroes in all of media, so naturally, he has an abundance of fan art, like comics, incredible animations, and of course, fan films.
Oh my god, I must be seeing things!
However, in 2021, a Spider-Man fan film was announced that looked like it wasn't just going to be another fan film, but instead a movie that was going to rival the MCU Spider-Man. A Spider-Man movie that many fans of the character had been begging for, and oh my lord, look at that suit. Surely this is going to be one of the best fan films ever made. Oh no. So, with Spider-Man being around since the 60s, the character obviously has a huge amount of fan films and animations, going as far back as 1992 with the Green Goblin's Last Stand, a passion project made by Dan Poole, who is a bit of a psychopath. Like, the dude directed the movie while also playing Spider-Man, and in order to film shots of him swinging between buildings, Dan just launched himself off a balcony.
Why did you swing from that fire escape? The simple answer has always been, I needed the shot.
Dan was a huge Spider-Man fan, spending close to 4 years creating these short films as kind of a way to break into the film industry so that he could help bring a faithful adaptation to the big screen. And at the very least, you definitely can't say that Dan wasn't fully committed.
Knew that was coming. I got that bitch on camera.
These short videos were all made with approximately zero budget and no film school education, with it all leading to Dan eventually deciding to make a full-blown movie as a way to impress James Cameron, who at the time was in talks to making the first actual feature-length Spider-Man movie. Once Dan heard this news though, he instantly got to work, firstly wanting to make a sort of 5-minute trailer filled with action scenes, but then Dan read the death of Gwen Stacy, and really gravitated towards its more mature story. He felt it was a gripping narrative that he could bring to life using the skills he had learned over the years of making Spider-Man videos, and thus the decision was made to create this really ambitious fan film where Peter would face off against his biggest foe, the Green Goblin. It's probably worth mentioning that the entire movie was made for around $400, meaning the cast and crew didn't really get paid. They not so legally acquired stuff to help make props like the Green Goblin mask. They filmed in places where they absolutely had no permission, and of course, everyone did their own stunts. Especially Dan, who was basically a human crash test dummy throughout filming. Like, on top of swinging between two actual buildings, he also did other insane shit like standing on top of a moving car, nearly falling off of roofs, hanging upside down 30 feet in the air, and launching himself through barrels. My man was willing to die for this movie, and honestly, I genuinely think it paid off, because despite this fan film being at least 10 years older than anyone watching this video, it still holds up incredibly well as an earnest and charming movie that really captures the spirit of the comics. The acting is decent, if not a little bit over the top.
You killed you maniac! You took my quest!
And the action scenes, along with the special effects, are all surprisingly great, considering the film was again made for around the same price as a loaf of bread. There's also a making of video where the cast goes over the whole production, and it's seriously impressive seeing just how creative Dan and the team had to be when it came to aspects like the special effects, using simple yet effective methods that all work exceptionally well. Mostly. Everyone who worked on the movie looked back on it really fondly by all accounts, constantly mentioning the creative workarounds they had to come up with, and naturally saying what a madman Dan was for filming some of this shit. Now, since the Green Goblin's last stand, there's obviously been a huge influx of newer 1080p Spider-Man fan films, especially with YouTube making it easy for anyone to upload whatever they want for the entire internet to see. I actually went through a couple of these fan films while making this video, and something that really blew me away was the sheer amount of passion and creativity that is crafted into these love letters for the character. Sure, the wigs aren't great and the acting is questionable,
And your uncle's been shot and murdered.
What? No!
but these projects aren't multi-million-dollar productions. They're made by people who usually only have about $10 in their pockets, along with a few friends dressed in the finest Spider-Man morph suits. The animations in particular really stood out to me. Like, other than the insane amount of Blender tutorials I'd need to go through just to create 1 second of this, the way these creators have visualized Spider-Man and the way he moves while swinging or fighting is genuinely so impressive. And also infuriating, because I'll never make anything nearly as good as this.
Weed has been legalized!
But you're the one getting smoked, Gobby!
I also really enjoyed seeing people take the concept of Spider-Man and use it in a totally different way. Like, for example, in 2024 short horror film The Spider, where Peter is played by Carl from The Walking Dead, and instead of getting spider-like abilities after being bitten, Peter just turns into a spider and then eats Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben, what happened?
Although, with all that being said, I would still say that The Green Goblin's Last Stand is probably the best fan film out there. However, that was all about to change when a young man named Gavin thought to himself, I can make a Spider-Man movie. For the small fee of $20,000, of course. At the very start of 2021, a then 17-year-old Gavin J. Knopp uploaded an announcement video for his first ever movie, Spider-Man Lotus, a fan film that would be adapting 2 of Spider-Man's most notable comics, those being Spider-Man Blue, a story which centers around Peter's relationship with Gwen Stacy, and of course, Spider-Man Reign, a story where Peter kills Mary Jane with his radioactive I think I got my notes mixed up again. The other comic was actually The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man, a story about Tim Harrison, a kid who is a massive Spider-Man fan that Peter actually spends a day with for no apparent reason, showing off his web shooters, sharing stories about fighting crimes, and even going as far to reveal his secret identity. Throughout the book, we have no idea why Peter is doing any of this until the very last page, when it's revealed that Tim is terminally ill and doesn't have long left to live, which is a little depressing. Both these books are seen as some of the best Spider-Man stories ever written, so to properly adapt these classics into his film, Gavin figured he'd need at least $20,000. Thus, the Spider-Man Lotus Indiegogo was made, giving extensive info on the movie, going over its cast, how the budget would be split, and even specific rewards for donations, like a signed poster for $65. I'm sure this won't age poorly. However, somehow, this ambitious Indiegogo campaign didn't just reach its goal of $20,000, it instead pulled in $100,000. All for a 17-year-old who had never made anything nearly this big before. As far as I can see, the reason this blew up so quickly was because of 2 things. 1, the suit looked sick and caught everyone's attention, like it basically became a selling point for the whole film, and 2, the movie kind of appealed to, people who hated the MCU Spider-Man.
I just watched Spider-Man Far From Home, and I feel sick.
To sum this up in as little words as possible, log onto Twitter, type in the word Spider-Man, and you'll be greeted with Spider-Man fans who are both the most passionate and fucking deranged fans I've ever seen, who hate anything related to the character that isn't Spider-Man 2. This is where Spider-Man Lotus comes in. It was marketed as this darker, more mature project that would tackle themes of death and grief, while also seeing how Peter deals with all these emotions. Basically, you know, Spider-Man 2, but different, I guess.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Clearly this worked though, because Gavin now had $100,000 in his bank account, and people were hyped to see what was next, leading to the full trailer dropping in October and gaining a respectable 3 million views. The trailer was almost universally praised. Most of the comments at the time were expressing how excited they were for the full movie, and it even reached as far as the current Spider-Man director, John Watts, who actually DM'd Gavin saying his trailer looked awesome. It doesn't just stop there though, because apparently Gavin's dad is an airline pilot, and who just so happened to be on one of his flights? Fucking Andrew Garfield, who after speaking to Gavin's dad, expressed interest in the fan film. Seriously, at this point, the hype around Spider-Man Lotus was insane, and Gavin, who remember was only about 18 at the time, was seen as a Spider-Man savant who was going to create a movie that was going to be way better than anything Disney had done with the IP. However, all that goodwill and hype would come to a swift end when, racism happened.
The Ku Klux Klan!
You know the Wolf of Wall Street meme where they're all getting arrested, with the caption being something like, when the group chat leaks? Yeah, that's pretty much what happened here. On June 2022, someone took to Twitter with one goal in mind: revenge. And thus screenshots were leaked showing that Warden Wayne, the actor playing Spider-Man, really likes to use the N-word. Obviously, these DMs spread across Twitter like wildfire, with Warden Spider-Man quickly being rebranded as the racist Spider-Man, followed by an onslaught of memes. Don't worry though, Warden tweeted out an apology, basically saying he's sorry for what he said, and that the only reason he used those words so liberally was because he was homeschooled. Gavin took to Twitter to defend his lead actor, saying that Warden had since apologised to him for using those words, and that Gavin truly believed Warden had grown and became a much better person. Would be a real shame if Gavin had also said stuff like Gavin's racist DMs were then leaked. A whole slew of real and fake screenshots dropped all across Twitter, not only showing that Gavin had some spicy takes, but also giving insight into the fact that Gavin may have actually had a bit of an ego. Through the plethora of leaked DMs, it paints a picture that Gavin was only really focused on Spider-Man Lotus becoming the fan film, beating out all the others that came before it. Seriously, unlike our man Dan, who just wanted to make a faithful Spider-Man movie, Gavin was purely making this as a vanity project to spite the MCU Spider-Man, and also other YouTubers for some reason. Gavin quickly put out his own statement and said he would be logging off Twitter for a while, but by this point the damage was already done, and it would only get worse from here. Shortly after this, the VFX team dropped out due to all the controversy, as well as the production being overall pretty mismanaged. Full scenes were then leaked, behind the scenes images were leaked, the entire script was even leaked, along with apparent plans to make Spider-Man Lotus the first in a fucking trilogy. Oh, and the actor who played the Green Goblin allegedly liked kids too much.
I love kids, Charlie! I love kids!
By this point, the entire movie was basically a sinking ship. Years of goodwill evaporated in an instant, with this $100,000 project going up in flames, all because of one Twitter account, which turned out to be a 15-year-old kid that actually knew Gavin. Yeah, so real quick, this kid was apparently friends with Gavin years earlier when he was like 9. Then when Spider-Man Lotus started to get popular, Gavin ghosted him, which led to this kid then plotting and orchestrating Gavin's entire downfall for the next 5 years. And to be fair, it absolutely worked. It wouldn't be until September when Gavin finally addressed all the controversy in a YouTube video, again apologising for using the gamer word, and also defending himself in regards to a couple fake screenshots that were going around, as well as talking about why the VFX team left, basically saying it was all down to a lot of miscommunication. Unsurprisingly though, this apology video wasn't very positively received. Maybe a ukulele would have helped. However, following this video and another short trailer in October, Gavin went completely radio silent, and for the next 8 months we wouldn't see or hear any news about the movie, leading to a lot of people thinking that Gavin may have abandoned ship too. I mean, the movie was supposed to come out during the summer of 2022, and obviously that didn't happen, so it was probably safe to assume that all this controversy may have put an end to Lotus, which meant a lot of people were going to need a refund. But then in July 2023, Gavin was back, and finally, after a lengthy 2.5-year production, we had a release date of August 10th. Clearly, Gavin was determined to get this thing out, and even went as far as to premiere the movie at the $1 Million Theatre in LA. Which didn't really help when it came to the big ego allegations for Gavin. Regardless of all that though, Spider-Man Lotus was finally here, and on August 12th the full movie was uploaded onto YouTube for everyone to see. So after going through all of this controversy, was the actual movie worth the wait? No. Now, I don't doubt Gavin loves Spider-Man. Like, the dude has devoted years to making Spider-Man content, so clearly he's passionate about the character. But after watching Spider-Man Lotus, I couldn't help but think that Gavin really doesn't understand the character. Basically, the movie starts with Spider-Man fighting Shocker using only the finest of one-liners.
It's my shocker suit!
Your shocker suit. That's what you're calling.
Yeah!
Wow. Did you come up with that yourself?
Ha 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 ha! Much laughter and exaggerated scenarios ahead.
Which causes him to be late for a double date with Gwen, Harry, and Mary Jane, blah blah blah, you get the point. Being Spider-Man is hard, mark it off the checklist. Then literally 2 minutes later, Gwen fucking dies, and for the rest of this movie's 2-hour runtime, everyone is in major need of some antidepressants, especially Peter, who isn't just sad, he's a bully.
You're a joke.
Seriously, I'm not kidding, Lotus spends the vast majority of its runtime being a compilation of scenes where characters are either sad by themselves, sad with other people, or sad in the rain. My personal favourites. And you know, it's obviously fine to have sad scenes, but when the only thing for 90% of your Spider-Man movie is just scenes of people looking sad that go on for way too long, then maybe that's a bit of an issue. Speaking of issues, as I mentioned earlier, Lotus is an adaptation of two notable Spider-Man comics, and when it comes to either of them, I don't think Gavin read the right books. With Spider-Man Blue, it basically relies on you caring about Gwen Stacy and obviously her death, which was easy enough to do when it came to the comics because she had been a prominent character for years before the fall damage took its toll. So of course, when it comes to Lotus, they speedrun to her death within 5 minutes and treat her more like a plot device rather than an actual character. But hey, come on, we don't have time for any of that character development stuff. We need at least 5 more scenes of people being fucking sad. On the other hand, I think Gavin's interpretation of the kid who collects Spider-Man is somehow worse.
What do I do, Lord? Destroy the child.
Because everything that made that story work in the comics is just torn apart here, and all we're left with is Peter trauma dumping to a dying child about his dead girlfriend.
It was the greatest mistake of my life. Now everyone else is paying for it.
But you're a hero. You saved all those people.
And how many others suffered because of it?
What is wrong with you?
I think it goes without saying that this isn't really Spider-Man. I mean, sure, God knows Peter struggles in the comics. He's constantly going through shit to the point where a defining trait of Peter Parker's life is that it kind of fucking sucks sometimes. But it's in spite of all of that that Peter keeps pushing forward. It's why he's become such a huge role model for so many people. He never gives up because of who he is and the responsibility that comes with that. Sure, he falters, doubts himself, and has thoughts of quitting, but what's made him such an endearing character since his very first appearance is that he finds the resolve to keep going no matter what. So with that being said, I don't think Spider-Man would go as far as to tell a terminally ill child that he should find a better role model. Like, there's a few golden rules with his character, and one of the main ones is that he doesn't give up. On the plus side, at least he doesn't use anyone as a human shield. Oh, come the fuck off. In fairness though, there are still some good aspects to Lotus. Please hear me out. The CGI, for the most part, is very well done, and the suit still looks utterly fantastic. Like, both the costume designers and the VFX team did some great work here. The fight scenes are also pretty good too. It's just a shame the main ones between Spider-Clan and the Green Groomer. Unfortunately, all of that hard work is overshadowed by not only the mountain of controversy around Lotus, but also its overall poor writing, all over the place sound mixing, and non-existent lighting. Which for most fan films would have been easily forgivable, cause you know, budget, but this was made for $100,000. Now upon release, both Lotus and Gavin took a vicious beating from all across the internet. See, fan films don't typically receive much criticism because, you know, they're fan films, but Lotus was a special case as many people didn't really see this as a fan film, but rather a pretentious vanity project made by someone who was only interested in showing that he knew better than anyone else. Unsurprisingly, all this controversy, combined with the movie being, well, shit, led to Lotus being bombarded by an ungodly amount of negative reviews. I mean, just one quick look at the movie's IMDb page, and that spicy 3 out of 10 rating tells you all you need to know. 1 star, complete character assassination. 2 stars, for the love of God, go back to film school. 1 star, 100k down the drain. And 1 star, this might be the worst piece of media I have ever seen. Side note, if you go to 35 minutes and 46 seconds, the Harry walking scene, and begin playing Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day, it fits perfectly. Hey, he's right. At this point it was pretty obvious that Gavin bit off way more than he could chew with this project, and all he could really do now was try to withstand the insane amount of fire he was under. Now, to wrap this up, I kinda wanted to see what everyone involved with Lotus is doing now. I mean, this whole situation happened like 2 years ago. I know, right? Early to the topic as usual. But for the most part, the majority of actors haven't done much since Lotus came out. The only person who actually has done anything is, of course, Gavin, who has recently, as September of this year, released another Spider-Man fan film titled The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man, which is pretty much just a reworked version of Lotus with some key differences. Like how instead of being 2 hours long, it's now only 13 minutes, it cuts out all the long sad scenes, fixes the colour grading, and even adds in new lines to make Peter sound less like a manic depressive and more like, you know, Spider-Man.
But you tried tried to save her. I saw the videos. The Beagle's making up stories like they always do.
It's not the same. There's more to it that you wouldn't understand.
But you tried to save her. I saw the videos. The Beagle's making up stories like they always do.
I know, Tim. I know. And there's so much I wish I could tell you. I just think you're looking at me like someone that I'm not.
I don't understand.
I know, you're just a kid. And it doesn't feel right to let you look up to someone like me.
I don't understand.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to do the right thing here.
The biggest difference being that instead of just ditching the kid because he gets sad over Gwen again, like in Lotus, here Peter gets a bit overwhelmed, politely says he'll be right back, and then visits Uncle Ben's grave to compose himself. Which is a change that almost entirely makes this better than Lotus. Honestly, I can't lie, this cut is so much better than Lotus in almost every way. Like, it drops the snobby pretentiousness Lotus had in favour of being an actually funny and charming retelling of an iconic story. Here, I can fully see the passion for Spider-Man Gavin has, because unlike Lotus, this short film feels like it was made by a fan. Ultimately, Lotus's main issue is that I think at some point during production, Gavin stopped treating this like a fan film and more like a way to show that his idea of Spider-Man was better than anyone else's. I mean, the racism obviously didn't help, but I think Lotus would have still been a mess without all the drama. As I said at the start of this video, there's so much fan-made media out there, it's insane. And I think Lotus is a cautionary tale of not letting your own ego get in the way of creating something you're passionate about. Because realistically, it doesn't matter if your interpretation of a certain character is better than anyone else's. All that matters is that what you're making is some good old fanfiction, baby.